Welcome to a new time. Welcome to a new era.
This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Feel the wrath of the pythons. You shall feel the wrath of Hulkamania. This is where the power lies.
And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
I got a 66 and 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me and he's not even going to try.
It's time to step into the squared circle and get it done.
Welcome everyone to the Legends and Champions podcast. Andy Evans here, coming to you from the United Kingdom. How you doing? Hope everybody is doing well. This is it. This is our third part of our Triple H 3-part special. We've looked at the career, we've looked at the lows, and now we're about to kick off the highs. What were the big moments in Hunter's career? And we're also going to touch on that Hall of Fame induction itself. I mean, I don't know about you, but this has been, I've really enjoyed this 3-parter that we've done because it kind of allowed us to break it down a bit more and go into a bit more detail and have a bit more discussion about Triple H. But my question to you is, who would you like us to do next? So this is going to become a more regular feature, these multi-shows, these multi-arcs. But it don't just have to be on a superstar. It could be on an event. It could be on a series of events. It could be on an angle. And I want you to tell me what you would like us to cover on the show. And you can do that by going to Celebrate Wrestling on Facebook. If you're not part of it, join the group, answer some questions, because we have to do it under meta rules, and Mike will let you in. And once you're in, you can be a part of the great community we've got over there, where we talk all about professional wrestling on a daily basis. I mean, all of us, from myself to Mike to Joe and Mitch to Stefan, are all there. And we all get interactive with you guys. We all be a part of the conversation. And we use your comments on the show. And often what we do on this show now is we ask for your opinion on something. And we will use those comments going forward. And in fact, next week is video games. And I'll explain more about that next after this. Now, if you want to keep in contact with us, you can do via the Facebook group, like I've already said. But you can also do it via podcast. And all you need to do is join the Celebrate Wrestling podcast on all main platforms, whether that be Spotify or Apple or Podbean or iHeart or Pandora or wherever you're listening to this. Click on the little button that says subscribe and you will get instant notifications when the new episodes are available. And of course, you've not only got me and Stefan, it's part of Legends, you've got Mitch and Dimitri on the alternate commentary table on a Saturday. You've got Mike every Sunday with Maguire on Wrestling. And We've Seen a Movie is coming back. I think it's going to be an interesting one when they do their next one. That Hilton. Yes. So we got loads of things happening here at Celebrate Wrestling. Each show is unique. Each show is different. But we've all got one passion. And that is putting content out for you guys. And talking about the crazy world that we all love of professional wrestling. Now, it's currently the 5th of March and a lot has happened in the world, hasn't it? From the political side to the economic side to just stability. And I want to say I hope everybody is okay. And, you know, it's a very tumultuous time now. And if anybody wants to talk about anything that might be, you know, affecting them, then, you know, let me know. And I'm always available to have a chat with anybody. If there's something that you want to talk about, if something's worrying you, then have a chat. And I'm here. You're not alone. No one should suffer quietly. So please feel free to talk. Did you know that we are just 2 days away from WWE 2K25 being released? How crazy is that? It feels like yesterday that they announced it was coming. It's going to be here on Friday if you've ordered the Bloodline edition. And the 14th if you've ordered the standard edition. As everybody knows, I've gone for the Bloodline edition. I'm going to be playing it most of the weekend. And this time next week, as part of Legends, and as part of our wrestling video game special, I'm going to be giving you a review of WWE 2K25 right here. What did I think of it? Was it any good? Does the island work? Do I still not like my faction? You'll find out more about that next week. Tune in next week on this show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our first break of the evening. Oh, I've just dropped my pen. I'm going to go for my first break of the evening. When I come back, it will be me and Stefan talking about the highs of the game Triple H. I will see you on the other side after this.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing. Right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it. We hate it. The alternate commentary table, ACT. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts.
Sure.
The suit, the tie, all the corporate liabilities, they're just layers to cover up who you really are. We have to end the uncertainty. I get it. I understand how bad you want this. Here's the thing. You're right. It is the end of an era. We are the last two of our kind, but our fate is not to end it, dead man. Our fate is to ensure that it carries on. My fate is to make sure that this business is here, that the WWE exists in the future. Your fate is what it's always been. To be the leader, to carry that torch for the next generation, to carry that torch and lead the way. I will not be the one to extinguish that flame. It's bad for business.
Welcome back, everyone, to the squared circle. No, we're not the squared circle. We're Legends and Champions. That's because I was thinking about the squared circle. Welcome back to LAC. This week, the third and final part of our Triple H series. I don't know about you, but I've really enjoyed looking back at the career of Paul Levesque, the game. Last week, we talked about the lows of the career of Triple H. Now we're going to talk about the highs. Kicking off with this one, Stefan, you wanted to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it straight away. Royal Rumble 2000, Triple H versus Cactus Jack. It was the street fight. It was brutal. It was bloody. We saw a different hardcore side of Triple H. What's your take on it?
Yeah, as I said, this match and the rivalry he had with Foley at the time was what really, really took my Triple H fandom to the pinnacle level that it always has been since. Obviously, Triple H had only won the title earlier in 1999. You could see he was becoming, a big star, one of the top guys. I didn't really feel, even though he had won his first title and that he was quite at that level yet. But when he got in there with Foley, and then everything just changed. Everything from, and I still watch it now, and I still get goosebumps. The whole beatdown on Mankind to when Mankind comes out on SmackDown and says, one thing Mankind is not ready is to face you in a street fight at the Royal Rumble. So I'm going to name a substitute, and he rips the mask off and he says, "I'm Cactus Jack." Triple H's facial expression just sells the whole thing. I've actually got a DVD which is autographed by Mick Foley that I got him to sign, which is the Mick Foley Hard Knocks Cheap Pops DVD, which is a great DVD where they actually go a lot behind the scenes with this, and Triple H talks about what an incredible honor it was to be a part of that, and what a mythological being Cactus Jack kind of was, and how he felt he did help elevate that role for that rivalry. And I mean, I was in sixth form when it aired on Channel 4 here in the UK.
Oh, Channel 4.
And I stayed up to watch it, even though I had an exam later that morning. I stayed up and watched it, and I could not believe what I was seeing. It was the first time I really saw just how far Triple H will push the punishment barrier on himself to make it work. The guy was just torn to pieces throughout that match. And it was pretty much, for the most part, one-sided. And when you look at the barbed wire tearing at his forehead, which, he's still got the scars there now, which is incredible. But also when he was suplexed near the entrance, and that shard of wood on that wooden pallet stabs him in the calf muscle. The fact that he wrestles the rest of that match with a massive hole in his leg and a chunk of wood in his again, it just signified to me, well, this guy is actually the real deal. And my respect level went up for him at that point. It just went through the roof. And from that moment on, I was like, you know what, I'm a Triple H guy. Like, this guy is the real deal. He's earned my respect.
So screw being a Paul Heyman guy, you were a Triple H guy from 2000, right? I mean,
I'll always be a Paul Heyman guy.
I remember,
Paul Levesque guy.
I remember being at college when this match was on, and there was a group of us, and it was me and a couple of friends, and we were diehard wrestling fans. I remember going into the Learning Resource Center, which was a posh name for the library, the following morning at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we all sat there on the computers, like this bank of old school PCs with CRT monitors and dial-up internet, going on to WWF.com to find out, or Raja, WWF.com to find out the results of what was happening, and then sitting there talking about, this match. And the Channel 4 coverage is something that at some point we need to talk about, because it was god-awful. There was advert breaks in between the matches and all this type of thing, but it was on terrestrial for the first time ever. It was just, as you said, it was what I would always call kind of like the dawning of this new era, right? Because the Attitude Era was still there, yes, but they seemed to be kind of moving away from it, from around like the 2001 mark, and this seemed to be the beginning of that transition. It seemed to be, WCW was gone or going, TNA wasn't around at this point, ECW was on its way out. It was the WWF at the pinnacle of what they were doing.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that the Attitude Era died once the invasion angle came about. I think as well, because I know some people don't think it was particularly a great year for WWF. 2000 is one of my favorite years. The only disappointing aspect of it was that Austin was missing for a large part of it because of the neck surgery, and the whole who ran over Steve Austin, which was a great storyline in itself. Rikishi did it for The Rock. I apologize. But the Rock Triple H rivalry was outstanding. Then you factor in Kane was getting pushed again. You had the rise of Kurt Angle in 2000. He had debuted and just went straight. Straight on a trajectory. And then obviously Taker had come back as American Badass, so they factored him. Rikishi was being pushed as a main eventer. So, they had to do something. I mean, Big Show was still there. They had to do something, because Austin was a big absence at that time.
Let's just think about.
But yeah,
let's just think about what you just said there. All right, Rikishi was a main eventer. only in the World Wrestling Federation. Yeah, but I mean, do you know what I mean? Rikishi was from the years of being the Sultan or being a part of the Head Shrinkers or just being Fatu to, being a dancing Samoan. He was now a main eventer, right? You just can't write this. I want to stick with relationships if I can, because we kind of referenced it 2 weeks ago now. His best friend, Shawn Michaels, left the World Wrestling Federation in 1998, just after WrestleMania 14, with the loss to Steve Austin with Mike Tyson. Triple H then went and reformed DX. By this time, DX is long gone. It's not there anymore. But what we had in 2002 was the return of the Heartbreak Kid. Now, we'd seen him as the commissioner. We'd seen him in the NWO guys, for a cup of coffee. You don't really resonate with that. But it was this attack on Shawn Michaels, which then, as the investigation unfolded and we found out it was Triple H with the sledgehammer in the car park, that led to the unsanctioned match at SummerSlam 2002 between him and Shawn Michaels, which was, emotional. It was physical. It had Michaels winning it. But it is often regarded as one of the greatest matches in WWF history. I would go as far as say possibly Triple H's greatest match in history.
Yeah, it's up there. I mean, there are some matches that I really will have to watch over and over again to really, agree with that statement. I don't disagree with that statement. I will say that. It was, but it also showed, I think it proved a lot. I think it proved a lot to Shawn, because obviously you pretty much told you're done. Everyone believes you're retired. He believed he was retired. You put him in the ring against his best friend, someone who he knows he's safe to work with, although the match was still brutal. As we know, Triple H really went to town on him. Oh, yeah. But I think it proved a lot to Shawn, and I think Shawn needed that to realise, well, actually, I can still do this. I didn't expect to see him come back, at Survivor Series and the first Elimination Chamber, but he did, and I credit Triple H a lot with looking after his buddy and making Shawn look really good. Because obviously, sometimes you're only as good as the person you're in the ring with, and they allow you to be. So credit to him on that. And yeah, it was a fantastic match. It really, really was. And it kind of sparked this on-off, this reigniting of the rivalry they would have on and off for the next sort of couple of years, wouldn't they? Because they would meet sort of in 2003 as well. And then obviously Nash would come back and he would then sort of feature a bit in it. So yeah,
I mean, there were moments, if you look at this feud, and it's one of those great feuds, like you referenced, where it can be hot, it can go cold, it can go hot again, just at the snap of a finger, because, it was Survivor Series 2002, the Elimination Chamber, where Michaels competed against Triple H. But then really, it wasn't until 2004 at WrestleMania 20 where, we saw that triple threat match between Triple H, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit, who had just come off that Royal Rumble win where he'd gone from number one and won the thing, to face them in that moment that, unfortunately now is buried in wrestling history, and you don't see it that often because of what happened to the Crippler. Sharing that pay-per-view with Eddie Guerrero, winning the WWE Championship, with Chris Benoit winning the World Heavyweight Championship. But the match was brilliant. I mean, it was what you call a technical masterpiece, not only in terms of the in-ring action, but the storytelling, the fact that HBK and Triple H, know each other so well. They obviously had respect for the Crippler. The Crippler could come in and work with them and sell the moves. He played the underdog really well. Triple H was playing that cerebral assassin role. It was everything you wanted it to be, and then you got that ending with those two men in the ring.
Yeah, this is where this is the thing which is so controversial because I've said to you before, I'm one of these people that can separate the performer from the person, who the person was personally. I will always watch Benoit matches and critique him and respect him as a performer. And I keep my personal opinions, what he did outside the ring, and separate, because I will separate the two. And it is a shame that matches like that are not celebrated because, they are tarnished by the reputation of what Benoit did. It's a shame as well. I used to have a T-shirt. I don't have it anymore because I won't wear it. Not because I don't want to, but I just didn't want any stick or comments made. I had a really nice T-shirt of Eddie and Benoit at the end of WrestleMania, where they're both standing in the ring holding the belts up with the confetti coming down. It was a beautiful T-shirt, but I decided not to wear it anymore because I didn't want anyone criticizing me for it, because unfortunately some fans, they can't separate the two people. You mentioned earlier about Hogan and why we've decided to leave it to later. I don't agree with a lot of what Hogan's done in his personal life and his political views, etc. But I bloody love Hulk Hogan, the performer, and the one that brought Hulkamania and was responsible for my fandom. So, I will separate the two. But yeah, I mean, Benoit, to be fair, he's one of those ones like Kurt Angle that you put him in you put him in the ring and they can work with anyone. They can have a great match with absolutely anyone. They put Benoit in the ring with the likes of Orlando Jordan and they had some really good matches together. So, but I think it was also good because, I think a lot of people were probably focused more on the history of Triple H and HBK, that you kind of took your eye off of Benoit a little bit at that main event. Yes, you're like we won the Rumble. Is he going to win the title in this? But you're always so fixated. When Shawn and Triple H were in the ring together against each other in any match, you were always fixated on them two.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. I agree. I don't think anybody expected Benoit to walk out of that triple threat match as the world champion, and especially as that match went on. It looked like that wasn't actually going to happen, but that's the result we got, and it is one of those iconic moments. At some point in the show's run, I'm really in two minds about it, but there's a part of me that would love to do a show on Benoit, but there's another part of me that is kind of like, I don't want to touch it. And it this is a Triple H show. I don't want to take too much time talking about Benoit, but it took quite a few years to actually be able to go back and watch a Benoit match because of what happened with Nancy and Daniel. But that's a different kettle of fish. Let's move on, because we have a time limit. We've got to work to that time limit. That's the way that the show works. But there's two things that I really want to touch on before we talk about Stephanie, because Stephanie is obviously a key moment. WrestleMania 28 against The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, the end of the era. Michaels was the guest referee. I mean, there's a relationship here, right? There's a correlation between some of these highs and Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and this also plays in really well to the Hall of Fame. It was a match. It was The Undertaker Triple H. It was dubbed End of the Era. It wasn't going to happen again. It was Hell in a Cell. The Undertaker emerged victorious, the streak intact. That's what set up the Shawn Michaels series with The Undertaker. But it's that moment more than anything that I want to touch on, which is them all walking out of the ring together, arm in arm. I mean, that is that camera shot where they're walking out and that's all you see is the back of them. Yeah. That is one of the most iconic shots in pro wrestling.
Yeah. I openly admit I welled up. I had tears in my eyes when at the end of that match, because to me, that was a big chunk of me growing up. So much history, so many iconic moments that those three men were responsible for collectively. And, it was the end of an era. I mean, you think back to all the, the times Taker and HBK met in the 90s. You know, you look at you know, when he cost Taker the title at SummerSlam 97 to Bret Hart, and you think about Hell in a Cell in at Bad Blood in 97. You know, all this history. You know, Shawn at WrestleMania 25 and 26. You know, back to back. Two of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, back to back, and retired at 26. Then Triple H goes in at 27 and 28 and fails to beat Taker as well. So Shawn and Triple H both, you know, over the space of 4 Manias, had 2 attempts each and failed to end the streak. You know, you always knew Shawn was going to get involved somehow. And, you know, as much as I would have loved to have seen Triple H win the match, I was always one of those people that was an advocate for the streak always remaining intact, never ever ending. I mean, it should never happen.
I mean, that's going to be that's going to be an interesting one.
Yes, absolutely. So when Shawn kind of got involved and, you know, would hit switch to music on Undertaker, I was annoyed at him because I was like, no, not like this, not like this. And thankfully that's not what went down. But what a beautiful moment it was to see the 3 men having that moment, having that, you know, embrace on the stage in front of all those fans and millions watching around the world. It was amazing.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because, you know, I openly admitted when I was doing TWS that when that shot happened, when they dubbed it the end of an era, that to me was where the Undertaker should have finished. Now, all right, we knew they were going to try and get to 30, right? We knew that, but it was that shot walking out was for me that most iconic moment where you wouldn't get it again, right? And you never did. And there's part of me that kind of sits there going, you know, he should have finished at that point. That should have been it. That should have been the crescendo. That should have been the swan song. Thank God he didn't, because we got 2 epic main events with Shawn Michaels the following couple of years at WrestleMania. But the one thing about Paul Levesque is he's not afraid to make someone look good, and he's not afraid to do the job if it's best for business. And that took place at WrestleMania 30 when it was Triple H going up against Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call the dude. You know, it was this opening match, WrestleMania. It saw Daniel Bryan overcome Triple H to earn a spot in the main event. The victory was pivotal, and it led to him winning the World Championship later that night at WrestleMania 30. I mean, it was the opening match of WrestleMania, right? Triple H, when was the last time he was in the opening match? But he put Daniel Bryan over and made it one of the most memorable moments of that anniversary show.
Because it was best for business. And I think as well, there was, I think, the added extra of Connor the Crusher was at ringside, who, as we know, had a great relationship with Stephanie and Triple H, as well as obviously Daniel Bryan was his favorite at the time, and it also, you know, allowed him to have that celebratory moment at ringside where I know it's been overheard on the camera where he said to Connor, you know, he said all those lovely words to him and saying, you know, I've kind of done this for you, and you've helped me, and all this. It was such a beautiful setup, and I think the whole build-up to that WrestleMania regarding the Authority and Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement, it was special. These things don't happen all that often. You have, you know, these moments in time which come out of nowhere that end up becoming so historic and legendary. You know, you talk about the Austin 316 moment, the birth of Hulkamania, for example, the Yes Movement, the whole thing there. And if it hadn't been for Daniel Bryan's neck injury and his original retirement, you know, it could have been even more amazing if he hadn't have had to have given up that title. But, so, you know, it was special.
But whichever way you look at it, I mean, Triple H was and has been a part of some of the most monumental moments in WWE history, which brings me on to, you know, we haven't really touched on Evolution, and that's definitely one of the highs of the career. The problem with Triple H is he's done so much. You know, you could basically do a show a week for the next 5 years, trying to encompass everything that the guy's done, I think people would get a bit sick of a 60-week series on Triple H or whatever it would be. But I do want to talk about Stephanie McMahon because yes, he was with China. It's the age-old love affair of daughter not meant to be dating the wrestler. The wrestler fell in love with the daughter. They go into a storyline. They get married at a church in Las Vegas storyline. And they became the power couple of professional wrestling. And I think there were people who kind of went, it's not going to last. He's done it because he wants the power of the WWE. Whether or not he did, I mean, he's got it now. But one thing is you can't take for granted is the fact that the chemistry between those two was and is absolutely electric when they're on screen, whether or not they're faces or heels.
Yeah,
that chemistry was always there.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I actually thought they were already a couple a lot sooner than they actually were, and I've loved the interviews they've done about where they've spoken about, they obviously, they wanted to start dating Vince, he forbid it. Although Vince said, if it's meant to be, doesn't matter what I'll say, they'll end up together. And they did. And, the chemistry, I mean, they were a believable couple, even when they weren't actually a couple. And the chemistry was fantastic. I enjoyed the McMahon-Helmsley regime in the 2000. I even when Triple H and Stephanie have gone against each other, like the fake pregnancy and and him ditching her at the in the ring at renewing their wedding vows, and their chemistry is second to none. I mean, that iconic moment where he said he calls her a no good lying bitch and says we're through and throws the wedding ring down. That shot of her turning, the cameraman needs a lot of credit because he's at the right angle to get her where she's screaming and she looks demonic.
I mean, we talk about Sensational Sherry on this show being a nut job.
Yeah.
At that point, she was channeling everything to do with Sherry Martel. It's that lioness moment of Stephanie McMahon.
Absolutely.
The only way you can describe it. But I think one of the things about these two is the fact that they do everything as a tandem. It's quite clear that there is obviously a lot of love there because they've been together now for over a decade. And I think if you look at the Hall of Fame announcement that took place just a few weeks ago now, in WWE headquarters, the new WWE headquarters in Connecticut, with Shawn Michaels coming out, with The Undertaker coming out, whether or not, I mean, there's an argument to state that Hunter knew it was happening, or didn't know it was happening, whichever way you want to look at it.
No, he apparently didn't know. Yeah. It was Nick Khan's decision.
Yeah, I think there's an argument one way or the other. I don't know which one I totally believe, but as much as it was good to see Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker come out, for me, it's when Stephanie came out.
Yeah.
That's when you saw him. He was holding it together, but it's when Stephanie came out is when he just let it go. And that was actually quite heartwarming to know that, you can be this big corporate executive, you can be this big dude, you can be this multi-time world champion, greatest of all time. But actually it's when your wife comes out, sod it, I'm going to let it go. And I'm just going to. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about people that are meant to be, they were a match made in heaven. They really were. I mean, all right, I'm not all that soppy, but I definitely would love that kind of a marriage relationship of, they are each other's biggest supporters through thick and thin. You see that. I remember, I don't know if you remember Triple H, I can't remember which WrestleMania it was. It was Triple H's entrance where Stephanie actually stands up and gives that speech before Triple H comes out.
Christ,
and that, oh my God, that was phenomenal. And one thing as well, which I found very heartwarming, was WrestleMania last year on night 2. Stephanie came out originally unannounced. She wasn't, she'd already left the WWE, her role there. And she came out, you may have seen it, listeners definitely may remember it. She come out and she spoke about Triple H and said, no one cares about this business more than Triple H. He cares. This is in the new era, and she said, and that's when she did the whole, I'll take a leaf out of his book and did the whole Philadelphia. Are you ready? And that's the thing. They really are. I mean, yeah, we talk about they're a power couple, and people can turn around and say, "Oh yeah, he married Stephanie to get where he got." No, he didn't, because the love, the chemistry, and that you don't fade to that. Not for as long. I mean, you said they've been married. They've been together over a decade. I think they got married in 2003, so they would be married 22 years this year.
Christ.
So the time has flown by. So yeah, I just think, the fact that she has his back through thick and thin, and the fact that he can always be, show his softer side when she's there. I just love it. Not to sound all, cringy or anything like that, but honestly, I love the kind of relationship they have. It's special.
And I'll tell you what, if you could see the face he's pulling as he's saying all of that on video, it's quite hilarious. Yeah. Actually, the grin, like the pain. I don't want to admit it. It's all lovey-dovey.
But some people are just that damn lucky to have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, she's a lovely woman anyway. I mean, in more ways than one. Before we do come to the end of this series, this almost 3-hour series on Triple H. What we haven't talked about is the work he's done with NXT, because, really, we've spoken a lot about his in-ring career. We've spoken a lot about, the highs and the lows, and we've spoken about Stephanie. But actually, it's what he's done backstage that has really cemented his legacy in the industry. He took a brand or a show that was a joke and turned it into one of the hottest wrestling promotions of all time. He turned it
for a few years, probably the best product WWE had, because it was definitely for a period of time better than Raw and SmackDown.
I mean, you referenced it. I can't remember if it was on the first show or the second show, but you referenced it along the way that it was an indie wrestling dream, NXT, the black and gold. But why was it so good? Why did he do that?
I think, first of all, the formula was more old school. It had, I think, where Raw and SmackDown was very much shackled by Vince's leadership and the way Vince wanted things done. It had a more raw feel to it, where the promos, video packages they would have for like NXT takeovers for big matches, and that they reminded me of the older like Attitude Era ones, where they put like a heavy metal or rock song to it instead of this crappy pop whatever that we were getting on pay-per-views for the main roster. And we were seeing serious talent coming in from all over the world, from various indies. There were people that I had seen at companies like IPW UK and Progress and that here in the UK, and Rev Pro and that. They're showing up in NXT, and then obviously I think Triple H was saying to a lot of the talent, look, this is your stage. I believe in you. You're here for a reason. Go out there, show me what you can do. I mean, you look at the rivalry of Ciampa and Gargano, for example, and, Undisputed Era, the stuff they did. And, we go back. I mean, I know a lot of people say about Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. Sasha Banks. She was never quite as good on the main roster as what she was in NXT. Her, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Charlotte, I still think had their best matches in NXT. I really do believe that. I mean, watching the Iron Woman match between Bayley and Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's Championship is still one of my favourite female matches of all time, because it was that good. I just feel that there's a reason why a lot of stars that when they went up to the main roster, and Vince kind of got his input, they didn't quite work or take off. There's only a small handful that have succeeded. There are others that haven't.
And what is interesting, I think, is when you look at, and I don't disagree with anything that you said there about NXT, because it was quite simply the best, and I think what Sean's doing with it now is equally as good.
Yeah.
Nowhere not as good, but equally. But what is interesting is when you look at the main roster now that Vince has gone in and Paul, Levesque's got the book. There is that NXT feel to it. There's that longer on storylines. There's that longer on matches. There's that focus more on telling the story rather than the glitz and the glamour. And we are beginning to wrap this up now. We've only got a few minutes left, but with the Hall of Fame induction taking place at WrestleMania weekend on April 19th and April 20th, with pretty much guaranteed, in my view, to be Shawn Michaels doing the induction for Paul Levesque. Although it wouldn't surprise me if they change the formula and throw it out the window and it's The Undertaker, Paul Levesque, and Stephanie McMahon doing the induction. Triple H.
I mean, they did it with Eddie when they had Benoit. Yeah, they did it with Eddie. They had multiple people up there. I just want to say as well, touching on the NXT thing as well, one of my favourite Survivor Series of all time is the one a few years back where we had the NXT invasion and it was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, and NXT dominated pretty much the entire show. That for me was a fantastic pay-per-view. But just before we wrap up, because we haven't really touched on Evolution, two things that I just want to mention about Evolution quickly. Number one, it was a great success the first time round because it elevated Batista, Randy Orton. It gave Flair a new lease of life. It just worked. And I think it made Triple H, re-elevated Triple H for me. It took him back to where he was before Evolution. And when they did the Evolution reunion in around about 2014, I think it really cemented the Shield. It cemented their place as top stars and built them up for that next stage. You know, obviously when Seth turned on Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns to join the Authority. Again, Triple H there, it goes to show that I think some people out there that have been Triple H haters have some faith in him because he's made some bloody good decisions over the years that have really paid off.
Well, that brings me to this last point because we are literally now at the wire of the show. How would you like this to end? What's the one thing or the one kind of parting comment you'd want to say about Triple H for someone who's maybe listening to the show now who doesn't know that much about Triple H? Because believe it or not, there are fans out there, the newer WWE fans or newer wrestling fans. How would you sell him if we haven't already done it? What would you say to them now to flesh out what we've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's difficult to hype the guy even more. Like I said, he may not always get every decision right. Sometimes he may make some frustrating decisions, but have faith in him, trust him. He's one of us. He's a fan first and foremost. He cares about the product, which is more than what his predecessor, what could be said about him in the end. And just sit back and enjoy it. Because, we're only a year into the Triple H era and so many cool moments have happened already. Let's see what the future holds. Let's see what other ideas he's got. Let's see how this WWE Evolve brings in all these brand new stars into NXT and beyond. And that, let's just sit back and enjoy the Paul Levesque ride, because, he's the right man in the right place at the right time to take the company, on forward for us.
One of the greatest of all time, Triple H, Paul Levesque, the game, the Cerebral Assassin, whatever you want to call him, from 1995 in the World Wrestling Federation up until present day, has been there through the highs, the mid, and the lows of the World Wrestling Federation. This has been a 3-part special on the career, on the legacy of Triple H. I think, in fairness, we could have gone even longer than what we've done.
Yep.
I want to know what you think. What do you think of Triple H? Do you agree with what we've said? Do you think there's anything? Obviously, there's stuff we've missed out because we can't cover everything. But I want to hear from you on Facebook at Celebrate Wrestling. What are your opinions of the game Triple H? Do you agree with what we've said? Do you disagree? Are there any moments, any matches that you specifically want to remember? We're going to go to a break. When we come back, more of Legends and Champions. Stefan, thanks for joining me for the past 3 weeks. Talking about the game.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast. As always, I can't wait for us to do our 6-part special on Jimmy Wang Yang's career. I'm really looking forward to that one. I kid, of course.
We can do a 6-part special if you want. I can break it over 6 1-minute periods, and then we're done.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you.
Cheers, Stefan. We're going to go to break. When we come back, more Legends and Champions. We will see you after this in just a sec.
HBK and The Undertaker have made an executive decision here today. It's way past overdue. Though you are in the Hall of Fame as a member of the Generation X, it is only fitting that the Cerebral Assassin, the Game, Triple H, at WrestleMania 41, take his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So from a guy that usually has something to say about everything, I'm speechless. I'm going to kill Nick when we leave here. If you see somebody flying off of the roof, just ignore it.
You deserve it.
I don't know what else to say. Just thank you.
Welcome back to Legends. That is it. That is the end of the 3-part Triple H special. What a journey. It's been... Oh, hello. Well, that was unexpected. That is it. That is the end of the 3-part special of Triple H. Warts and all, right? That's what this show's all about. You see, I make mistakes. I'm human. Next week, as we said, we're going to be talking all about video games. Myself and Stefan are going to be looking at not the history, but which ones we liked, which ones we didn't enjoy, which ones were different. And we're going to be having some of your feedback on the show as well. So, see you next week. Do not forget that we are part of Celebrate Wrestling, the premier pro wrestling podcast network out there in podcast land, and we have got plenty more coming for you this week. On Saturday, Mitch and Dimitri will be here with the alternate commentary table, and I'm sure they've got 1 or 2 takes on the Cena turn. And then on Sunday, Mike will be here with Mike Maguire on Wrestling with Dave Meltzer, and whoever else might be appearing. It is cracking week right here on Celebrate Wrestling, and we are chuffed to be a part of it. But for Stefan and for me, I will see you next week. Until then, so long everybody. Bye now.
This has been Legends and Champions with Andy Evans. Thank you for listening.